Dear all, here are the world news, September 30, 2025. First news. U.S. faces looming government shutdown, global market impact. On September 30, 2025, the U.S. faced a looming government shutdown as federal funding for fiscal year 2026 expired without a finalized budget deal. With no consensus between Congress and the White House, non-essential government operations risk being halted, while essential functions such as Social Security, air traffic control, and national defense may continue on their automatic authorization. The uncertainty is sending shockwaves through global markets. The dollar came under pressure as investors anticipated that the shutdown would delay key economic releases, most notably the monthly non-farm payrolls report, a data point heavily relied upon by the Federal Reserve in setting interest rates. Gold surged to record levels as protective safe haven demand spiked, reflecting broad risk aversion. Meanwhile, global equities saw mixed movements. While European markets dipped, Asia markets remained relatively resilient. The data vacuum resulting from a shutdown could leave markets and policymakers flying blind in assessing real-time economic health. As the clock ticks toward midnight, all eyes were on last-minute negotiations for a stopgap funding bill to avert a costly standstill. Trump imposes new tariffs on furniture, raising trade tensions. On September 30, 2025, President Donald Trump announced new import tariffs targeting furniture items such as vanities, cabinets, and lumber, citing national security grounds. These tariffs are set to take effect on October 14 and represent an expansion of previous levies imposed on trucks and pharmaceuticals. The announcement came amid stalled budget negotiations and growing fears of a U.S. government shutdown. Markets reacted with caution as investors weighed the broader implications of intensified trade policy. Gold prices hit all-time highs in the wake of heightened uncertainty. Asian equity markets remained relatively resilient, extending recent gains, but the added trade pressure is likely to weigh on economic growth prospects in key export markets. The timing of the tariff implementation raises questions about global supply chains and inflationary pressures. With further escalation possible, market participants are wary of ripple effects across global trade and investment. Ukrainian citizen detained in Poland over Nord Stream explosions. On September 30, 2025, Polish authorities detained a Ukrainian national, identified only as Volodymyr Z, under an arrest warrant issued by Germany in connection with the 2022 explosions at the Nord Stream natural gas pipelines. The arrest occurred near Warsaw, according to both the Warsaw Regional Prosecutor's Office and the suspect's defense lawyer. The latter confirmed that Volodymyr Z plans to contest his extradition to Germany, arguing that the European arrest warrant's execution is impermissible due to the ongoing war in Ukraine. The Nord Stream blasts, which targeted infrastructure owned in part by Russia's Gazprom, have been a focal point in investigations as they directly affect European energy security and Russia's role in the region. The detention raises fresh legal and geopolitical challenges. Germany views the sabotage as an attack on its energy supply, while critics argue that conducting such an arrest amid an active war raises complex extradition and jurisdictional questions. The outcome of this case may have broader implications for accountability in transnational energy infrastructure attacks. French utility EDF launches a 48-hour strike. On September 30, 2025, French state power utility EDF announced the start of a 48-hour nationwide strike beginning late Tuesday evening. The strike is expected to disrupt electricity supply and operations across various sectors and regions within France. The workers' action underscores growing tensions within the French labor environment, particularly concerning working conditions, pay, and the broader transition to greener energy systems. EDF plays a critical role in France's energy grid, especially given the country's reliance on nuclear and centralized power. Consumers and industries are bracing for possible blackouts or reduced service levels, and grid operators may need to reallocate resources or move to contingency plans. The strike amplifies public unease around France's energy security, especially as Europe faces wider economic and energy volatility. How the government responds, whether via negotiations, legislative intervention, or concessions, will be closely watched. The EDF strike could also serve as a bellwether for broader labor unrest in other sectors already grappling with cost pressures and transition stresses. Dutch cargo ship attacked and set ablaze off the Gulf of Aden. On September 30, 2025, a Dutch-flagged cargo ship was attacked off the coast of the Gulf of Aden, causing it to catch fire and drift uncontrollably. The entire crew was safely evacuated following the assault. The incident highlights ongoing security challenges in high-risk maritime zones, particularly for strategic shipping lanes near the Horn of Africa. Piracy, insurgent attacks, or other maritime threats remain persistent hazards for vessels transiting the area. Authorities are investigating the nature of the attack, whether it was a piracy attempt, a militant strike, or another form of hostile action. The lack of immediate clarity adds to concerns about emergency response protocols and vessel vulnerability. Maritime insurers and shipping firms may reevaluate risk levels for routes through the Gulf of Aden. The incident also underscores the importance of naval patrols, international cooperation, and protective measures for commercial shipping in volatile regions. Visa bets on stablecoins to speed up cross-border payments. On September 30, 2025, Visa announced plans to expand its use of stablecoins to accelerate cross-border payments. The move aims to leverage digital currency technology to increase the speed and efficiency of global transactions. Stablecoins, typically pegged to fiat currencies, offer a bridge between traditional finance and blockchain systems. By integrating stablecoins into its infrastructure, Visa seeks to reduce settlement times, lower transaction costs, and improve liquidity for cross-border payments. The development aligns with broader trends in fintech, where established financial institutions explore digital assets and blockchain rails to remain competitive. It reflects a growing belief that stablecoins, or other tokenized assets, will play a critical role in the future of international payments. Visa's resources and reach could help bring mainstream adoption, but success will depend on regulatory approval, risk management, example, counterparty, compliance, and interoperability with existing banking networks. The announcement signals yet another nod from legacy finance toward the digital asset ecosystem. India's September gold and silver imports nearly double despite high prices. During September 2025, India's imports of gold and silver nearly doubled compared to August, despite record-high metal prices. Banks and jewelers are clearing large inventories and accelerating imports ahead of upcoming festivals and potential tax increases. Customs records show a significant surge in cleared quantities, defying conventional market logic that elevated prices discourage buying. But industry insiders suggest that many participants are hoarding stock to preempt further tax hikes or regulatory changes. India has a deep cultural affinity with precious metals, and demand surges around festivals often drive sharp seasonal import increases. The surge also reflects speculative positioning, hedging against inflation, currency fluctuations, or supply constraints. However, the phenomenon raises questions about India's balance of payments, import bills,
and pressure on domestic precious metal policies. Policymakers will need to weigh demand management, taxation, and currency considerations in the coming months.
OECD forecasts slowing global growth amid trade tensions. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, on September 30th, 2025, revised down its projections for global growth, estimating a 3.2% expansion in 2025, slightly below earlier forecasts. In its outlook, the OECD expects U.S. growth to moderate to 1.8% in 2025, down from previous estimates, and 1.5% in 2026. Meanwhile, China is projected to grow 4.9% in 2025 before slowing to 4.4% in 2026. The organization warned that higher trade barriers, policy uncertainty, and increased production costs could undermine investment, especially in emerging economies. Given the softening momentum, many central banks are expected to maintain or move toward looser monetary policy unless inflation pressures intensify. The revised outlook underscores the fragility of a global economy still adjusting to a post-pandemic, tariff-heavy environment and highlights the importance of policy clarity and multilateral cooperation to sustain growth. The newsletter has ended. Thank you very much.